Hello, I'm Dinky Dana, and welcome back to another Five Nights at Freddy's video. As you guys know, I absolutely love the Five Nights at Freddy's series, and it's a series full of mystery and intrigue. Every time a new game comes out, it leads to more questions. Where did the series begin, and where did it end? After Five Nights at Freddy's 3, it answered a lot of questions, but it also opened up a lot more. So today, we're going to take a look at where I think the series begins and where I think it'll end. So let's take a look at the full timeline of Five Nights at Freddy's. The earliest of the three games is Five Nights at Freddy's 2. We know that this takes place in 1987 because the check that you receive as Jeremy Fitzgerald for completing your first 5 nights has the date written directly on the check. Once you complete the 6th night, the newspaper reads the new animatronics will be scrapped due to possible malfunctions, probably the bite of 87. However, the original characters are being kept in hopes of a possible reorganization of the company. Now this explains why we see none of the toy animatronics in Five Nights at Freddy's 1, but we do actually see the original characters. So in Five Nights at Freddy's 1, you play as Mike Schmidt, and you get paid minimum wage, pretty much balancing out to either the year 1992-1993, so that's approximately when Five Nights at Freddy's 1 takes place. Then comes Five Nights at Freddy's 3, which is stated by Scott Cawthon that the game takes place 30 years later. It's still kind of undetermined whether this is 30 years after Five Nights at Freddy's 1 or Five Nights at Freddy's 2. I personally think it's after Five Nights at Freddy's 1, but nonetheless, it's definitely the last chronologically. So that's the basic timeline of the Five Nights at Freddy's series. But what is amazing about Five Nights at Freddy's 3 is it introduces a lot of new elements to help piece together the actual events that have taken place and what order they took place in. So in Five Nights at Freddy's 3, scraps are found from both locations and are gathered and used to build this new Fazbear's Fright, the horror attraction, which introduces a new discovery which has been hidden throughout the entire series, a hidden animatronic called Springtrap, which we have never seen. Listening to the Night 1 phone call from Five Nights at Freddy's 3, the phone dude says,
some guy who helped design one of the buildings says it was like an extra room that got boarded up, or something like that. So we're gonna take a peek and see what we can find.
Then in the Night 2 phone call, phone dude says they found vintage audio training cassettes as well as an old animatronic. We found one. A real one.
We found one. A real one.
So this is where the timeline really starts getting interesting, because the rest of the phone calls in Five Nights at Freddy's 3 are these vintage audio cassettes from prior locations, and they help us piece together the actual events that have taken place. The first vintage recording explains how the Springtrap animatronics work and says,
right now we have 2 specially designed suits that double as both animatronic and suit. So please pay close attention while learning how to operate these suits, as accidents, /injuries, /deaths, /irreparable and grotesque maiming can occur.
So this explains why the purple guy at the end of Night 5 is killed after entering the Springtrap suit. But when did this event actually take place? If you take a look at the floor plan for this minigame and compare it to Five Nights at Freddy's 1's camera layout, it is very apparent that these events took place in the Five Nights at Freddy's 1 Freddy Fazbear's Pizza location. The parts and services, Pirates Coves in the exact same locations, and even the office and bathrooms line up perfectly. But this event takes place in a room not included in the Five Nights at Freddy's 1 camera map. The Night 3 phone call explains this when phone guy says,
every location is built with one extra room that is not included in the digital map layouts programmed to the animatronics or security suits. This room is hidden to customers, invisible to animatronics, and is always off camera.
Then in the Night 5 phone call, phone guy says,
management has also been made aware that the Spring Bonnie animatronic has been noticeably moved. We would like to remind employees that this costume is not safe to wear under any circumstances.
Then in Night 6, phone guy says,
this is just to inform all employees that due to budget restrictions, previously mentioned safe rooms are being sealed at most locations, including this one.
I believe that this safe room was the location where Purple Guy entered the Springtrap suit, was killed, Then Fazbear Entertainment sealed off the room, trapping him inside until the phone dude in Five Nights at Freddy's 3 pulled down the false wall and brought him to the horror attraction. That explains how Springtrap came to be and how he was there in Five Nights at Freddy's 1, but we never saw him. But the question is, when did this event occur? When did this happen? Where do these horrific events take place in the overall timeline? I believe that these events in the Five Nights at Freddy's 3 minigame took place in the 1970s, and here's why. In my trailer analysis for Five Nights at Freddy's 3, I mentioned that I believe Five Nights at Freddy's 3 would lead back to Fredbear's Family Diner. I believe that it would explain the horrific events that took place, ripping Bonnie's face off, tearing off Chica and Foxy's arms, because the wear and tear on the Five Nights at Freddy's 2 animatronics are incredibly similar to the wear and tear on the Springtrap animatronic in Five Nights at Freddy's 3. As I was playing through Five Nights at Freddy's 3, I was slightly disappointed when Fredbear's Family Diner was never mentioned in the phone calls or the audio tapes. Or was it? Looking back on the recordings, the Night 4 recording states,
Hello. There's been a slight change of company policy concerning use of the suit. Don't. After learning of an unfortunate incident at the sister location involving multiple and simultaneous spring lock failures, the company has deemed the suit temporarily unfit for employees.
The very next night, Night 5, is when Phone Guy says the Springtrap animatronic was moved to the safe room in the Five Nights at Freddy's 1 location. I believe that this sister location was Fredbear's Family Diner, and I believe that that is where the events of Five Nights at Freddy's 4 are going to take place, showing us what these multiple and simultaneous spring lock failures actually were. So let's take a look at the timeline of events. You start with Freddy Fazbear's Pizza and Fredbear's Family Diner. Fredbear's Family Diner has a violent, horrific event after learning of an unfortunate incident at a sister location involving multiple and simultaneous spring lock failures. The company has deemed the suits temporarily unfit for employees. Since Springtrap is no longer to be used, new animatronics are brought in to replace them.
Until replacements arrive, you will be expected to wear the temporary costumes provided to you. Keep in mind that they were found on very short notice, so questions about appropriateness/relevance should be deflected.
These animatronics are Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. In the Night 1 through 4 minigames, you play as these animatronics and wander the location until you reach the safe room, which is invisible to animatronics, resulting in an error. The purple guy then comes out and destroys each of the animatronics. These events explain why Bonnie is missing its face, why Chica and Foxy's arms are ripped off in Five Nights at Freddy's 2. So on Night 5, the Spring Bonnie is moved to the safe room, and you see the purple guy appearing to shoo away the ghosts of the dead children, and he enters the Spring Bonnie suit, resulting in his death and the birth of Springtrap. Fazbear Entertainment then covers up this death by constructing a false wall over the old door base.
Work crews will be here most of the day today, constructing a false wall over the old door base. Nothing is being taken out beforehand, so if you left anything inside, then it's your own fault. Management also requests that this room not be mentioned to family, friends, or insurance representatives.
Since Fazbear Entertainment was able to put up a false wall and hide pretty much all of the events that took place at this location, it was very likely that the public never even knew about any of this, and the location was able to remain open. The next step in the timeline is the Five Nights at Freddy's 2 location. Welcome to your new summer job at the new and improved Freddy Fazbear's Pizza.
Hello and welcome to your new summer job at the new and improved Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Now, I want you to forget anything you may have heard about the old locations, you know. Some people still have a somewhat negative impression of the company.
I think that these events at the old location refer to the spring lock malfunctions at Fredbear's Family Diner.
We're going to try to contact the original restaurant owner. I think the name of the place was Fredbear's Family Diner or something like that. It was closed for years, though. I doubt we'll be able to track anybody down.
Then, in Night 3 of Five Nights at Freddy's 2, the phone guy says,
"Oh, hey, before I go, I wanted to ease your mind about any rumors you might have heard lately. You know how these local stories come and go and seldom mean anything. I can personally assure you, that whatever is going on out there, however tragic it may be, has nothing to do with our establishment. It's just all rumor and speculation, people trying to make a buck, you know.
I believe that these tragic events that he's explaining that are taking place alongside Five Nights at Freddy's 2 are the newspaper articles from Five Nights at Freddy's 1. While you're playing Five Nights at Freddy's 2, 2 children go missing, then 5. The newspaper quotes in Five Nights at Freddy's 1, after a long struggle to stay in business after the tragedy that struck many years ago, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza has announced that it will close by year's end. The tragedy that struck many years ago were the kids going missing approximately 6 years earlier when you're playing Five Nights at Freddy's 2. So then you go through Five Nights at Freddy's 1, you finish playing the game, and then the Five Nights at Freddy's 1 location closes down. Then 30 years later, Fazbear's Fright, the horror attraction, is created. Five Nights at Freddy's 3, I believe, has a perfect ending to the chronological series of Five Nights at Freddy's, but I do not think that it's the final game in the series. The only questions that have not been answered are what happened in the beginning. This leads in perfectly for the final game of the series to be Five Nights at Freddy's 4 taking place in Fredbear's Family Diner. Even on Scott's website, scottgames.com, the teaser is a picture of a hat. We're all assuming that that is Freddy Fazbear's hat, but now I think it's a perfectly placed teaser telling us that we're going to get introduced to Fredbear in Five Nights at Freddy's 4. As you all know, I love the Five Nights at Freddy's series, and I cannot wait for Five Nights at Freddy's 4 and to see what Scott has in store for us. Leave a comment and let me know what you expect to see in Five Nights at Freddy's 4. And also, subscribe to this channel for future Five Nights at Freddy's videos. And also, if you want to check out my live streams, be sure to click the link in the description to come over to my Twitch live stream, where I play a bunch of Five Nights at Freddy's, a bunch of other games. Come on over, say hi, join into the chat, and I can interact with you live while I'm playing video games. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm Dinky Dana, and thanks for watching.